Okay, so chapter 3, the title here is The Pulse of High Performance, Balancing Stress and Recovery. So that pulse literally is that balance of stress, stressing out the muscle, stretching it out, and then recovering. There's a pulse of it. But before I get into the outline, let's just look quickly at a couple keywords that I think are important for our understanding. First off, that energy, you may be asking, what is energy? Energy is simply the capacity to do work. If you remember those four different sources, the physical, emotional, mental, and then spiritual, we're trying to deepen those capacities. We're trying to build more energy in those capacities so that we can be more effective in our lives. Then you have oscillation and linearity, very two concepts very essential to this whole book, and as it is. Oscillation is a dynamic balance between the expenditure of energy, which is stress, and the renewal of energy, which is recovery in all dimensions. So you remember even the title of this chapter is balancing stress and recovery. So this oscillation is this beautiful, natural, if you will, flow between stress and recovery, intentional stress, and then intentional recovery. Linearity is just the complete opposite of that. It's going really hard in one direction or really soft in one direction, which brings me to my two other keywords. There's overtraining, which is putting too much energy in for too long of a period of time. And then undertraining is the complete opposite. It's too little energy for a long period of time, which is just linearity. You're going in one direction. So if I'm working out, I never break, I never take a rest, I never take a off week, I never stretch. I just pushing my weight. I'm doing biceps and I'm crushing myself. And though it's useful, it tears out and I end up atrophying over time. So the same thing happens with energy in these four different sources. He talks a little bit about karoshi. In Japan, it's where it literally means death from work. It's just this concept of linearity. When people are there in the world, we have this problem of just working ourselves to death. We praise overtraining. We praise too much work. We don't praise recovery. And so Japan, they even coined this whole term karoshi, and it's death from work. A bunch of case studies, you guys can go check them out, where people are dying in over there just because of this work. And he says that the issue is worse in America of just so much work. So there's super compensation is another key term. Faced with a demand that exceeds the muscle's current capacity, the body responds by building more muscle fibers in anticipation of the next stimuli. So that's just an important concept to get. And then there's defense spending. This one was very interesting. When there isn't much fuel in our tanks and our inner experiences that we feel threatened, we tend to hoard the energy we have and use our limited stores in the service of self-protection. So if I don't have a lot of energy in my emotions, or even better yet, if I don't have a lot of physical energy, I go into panic mode. And next thing you know, my emotions are off, my mental game's off, my spiritual game's off, because I'm going into defense mode and I'm up on the guard. I'm not relaxed. I'm not ready to perform. So let's go quickly into this outline. The first part is balancing stress and recovery. We already talked about that, that we have to intentionally stress ourselves out and hurt ourselves, if you will, a little bit, and then intentionally recover. He goes into oscillation and linearity, how he just proves in life that there are different cycles. Pretty much any system in life you see, naturally, how God has created it, there is this natural stress and recovery. And so going into the book, you can find some of that stuff on page 31. Don't want to get into it too much right now. And then there are quite a few other points on this outline, but I'm just going to only hit one because everything else was covered in the keywords. It's the time between the points. You'll see that on the outline. Very powerful concept. So he was looking at sprinters and different athletes, how there are points that they have in the game. So like a tennis, they're going through the points, but they take intentional breaks. They take intentional rest. This is that recovery that they do. These high-performance athletes, they are intentional to recover. They're working their butt off. They're hitting the baseballs. They're swinging. They're playing football, but they break and they rest. And they have such systematic ways to do this throughout their sporting event that they're able to recover. And he actually says the best athletes do it better than the good athletes. The good athletes don't even do this, these time in between each point. And so he proves that us as high performers in life or average people, we need to, throughout our day, we need to be putting in blocks of recovery. So that's chapter 3. Let's move on to chapter 4.